Jisoo Park woke up to the familiar hum of Nexus Station's life support systems. Her small room barely fit a bed and a desk, but it was home. She stretched and looked out the tiny viewport at the vast expanse of stars. Somewhere among those distant lights was Earth, a place she barely remembered after 15 years on the station. The alarm clock beeped. Time for work. Jisoo pulled on her gray maintenance uniform and tied her black hair into a practical ponytail. She caught her reflection in the metal wall panel. Dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept well again. The patterns had been active last night, dancing across her vision even when she closed her eyes. Another day, she whispered to herself. Just get through another day. Jisoo stepped out into the corridor and immediately an alien couple walking by moved to the opposite side. The tall blue-skinned Merid whispered something to his partner, and they quickened their pace. Jisoo kept her eyes down. She was used to this treatment. The station's main thoroughfare bustled with morning activity. Hundreds of different alien species moved about their business. Some floated, some crawled, others walked on varying numbers of legs. The air filled with a mix of breathing gases suitable for all forms of life. Despite the diversity, Jisoo felt more alone here than anywhere else on the station. A group of Talaxian merchants pointed at her as she passed. "That is the odd human," one said in common speech, not bothering to lower his voice. "The one who sees things that are not there." Jisoo picked up her pace. Most humans had integrated well into galactic society. They were respected for their adaptability and creativity. But Jisoo was different. Born with a rare form of synesthesia, she perceived quantum fluctuations as visible patterns of light and color that no one else could see. On Earth, doctors had called it a neurological condition. Here on Nexus Station, aliens called it bad luck. The maintenance tunnels welcomed her with their quiet darkness. Down here, away from judging eyes, Jisoo could breathe easier. She checked her work tablet for the day's assignments. 3 climate regulators needed fixing in Section 8, where the methane-breathing Cortax delegates were staying. "Park, you're late." The gravelly voice of Vilt, her supervisor, echoed in the tunnel. The 6-limbed Krath appeared around the corner, his exoskeleton clicking against the metal floor. "Sorry, Vilt. The main corridor was crowded." Vilt's compound. Eyes studied her for a moment. "The diplomatic summit begins today. The administrator wants all maintenance staff to stay out of sight, especially you." Jisoo felt her face grow hot. Did Drox say that specifically? He did not need to. Field handed her a specialized toolkit. "Take the service shafts today. Section 8 has narrow access points. None of my people can fit through them." That was the only reason Jisoo still had a job. Human bodies were smaller and more flexible than many alien species. She could reach places they couldn't. "There is also a broken waste recycler in the lower levels," Vilt added. "Fix that last. It smells bad even to me and I have no nose." Jisoo nodded and took the toolkit. As she turned to leave, Vilt called after her. "Park, the patterns, are they active today?" She paused, surprised by the question. Vilt rarely acknowledged her condition. "Yes," she admitted. "More than usual." Vilt said again. "Be careful." The maintenance shafts were tight even for Jisoo. She crawled through the narrow spaces, tool belt rattling against the metal walls. The first climate regulator was simple enough to fix, just a clogged filter. She replaced it quickly and moved on to the next. As she worked, glowing webs of light danced across her vision. Blues and purples twisted into complex geometric shapes. Jisoo had long ago learned to work despite these distractions. Sometimes, the patterns were faint, barely noticeable. Other times, like today, they were bright and insistent. When she reached the second climate regulator, Jisoo found the fault more serious. The coolant system had sprung a leak. She sealed her maintenance suit and got to work, carefully repairing the damaged section. Through the wall, she could hear voices. Curious, Jisoo pressed her ear against the panel and recognized the distinctive speech patterns of Station Administrator Drox. The felon's deep voice carried easily through the wall. The human engineer with the brain defect, Keep her away from the summit at all costs, Drox was saying. Ambassador Telk specifically asked about her. The Vespids believe humans with her condition bring misfortune. She stays in the maintenance tunnels most of the time, another voice responded. But we have cataloged her movements as requested. Good. This summit is too important to risk any diplomatic incidents. The Galactic Coalition rarely sends so many high-ranking officials to Nexus at once. Jisoo pulled away from the wall, her hands shaking slightly. She had always known the aliens avoided her, but she hadn't realized the station administration actively tracked her movements. She finished the repair and moved on to the third climate regulator, keeping her mind focused on the work. The quantum patterns grew brighter around certain junctions, particularly near important communication relays. Jisoo had noticed this correlation before but never understood what it meant. By midday, Jisoo had finished the climate regulators and headed for the waste recycler in the lower levels. The station's underbelly was dark and rarely visited, perfect for someone the station wanted to keep out of sight. The waste recycler smelled as bad as Veiled had warned. Jisoo activated her suit's odor filters and got to work. The machine had suffered a mechanical failure, with several gears jammed by debris. As she worked, the station's public announcement system echoed even down here. Attention all station residents and visitors. The Galactic Coalition Diplomatic Summit opening ceremony will commence in Meeting Hall Alpha at 1600 hours. All non-essential personnel are requested to avoid the central hub during this time. Jisoo checked her watch. She had plenty of time to finish this job and return to her quarters before the ceremony began. Not that she had been planning to attend. She knew she wasn't welcome. The recycler sparked as she reconnected a power coupling. Jisoo jumped back, barely avoiding a nasty shock. As she steadied herself, the quantum patterns in her vision flared with unusual intensity. They seemed to point toward the central hub, pulsing with urgent colors. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Just as she finished the repair, her tablet beeped with an incoming message. It was from Vilt. Park, report to primary maintenance office immediately. Earth diplomatic party arriving. Station administrator wants all human staff accounted for. Jisoo frowned. That was unusual. Human staff weren't normally summoned for the arrival of Earth diplomats. She packed up her tools and began the long climb back to the main levels, the strange pattern still dancing insistently across her vision. Little did she know that among the arriving Earth diplomats was someone who would change everything, not just for her, but for humanity's place in the galaxy. Hanbin Kim stood tall as the transport ship docked at Nexus Station. At 32 years old, he was young for an Earth diplomat, but his unique combination of skills had earned him this position. The viewing window showed the massive space station growing larger, a spinning wheel of metal and light where hundreds of alien species lived and worked together. First time to Nexus, Ambassador Kim? Asked Captain Lee, the transport pilot. First time anywhere beyond Mars, Hanbin admitted. He straightened his navy blue diplomatic uniform and checked his reflection in the polished wall panel. His short, black hair was neatly combed and his face showed the confidence he had worked hard to build. You'll find it interesting, Captain Lee said with a knowing smile. Humans have come a long way in galactic politics, but we're still newcomers compared to most species here. The ship shuddered as docking clamps engaged. Hanbin gathered his personal bag, leaving the larger diplomatic cases for the staff to handle. He had read everything available about Nexus Station and the upcoming summit, but nothing compared to seeing it firsthand. Remember, Captain Lee said as the airlock began to cycle, many species respect honesty and directness. Be yourself. That's what Earth chose you for. The airlock opened to reveal a welcoming party of station officials. At the front stood a towering alien with gray-green skin and 4 arms, Station Administrator Drox, a felon. Behind him were representatives from various station departments and several human staff members. Ambassador Kim, Drox's translator, device converted his deep, rumbling voice into common speech. Nexus Station welcomes Earth's new diplomatic representative. Hanbin bowed slightly, a gesture he knew most species recognized. Administrator Drox, thank you for your welcome. I look forward to representing Earth at the Galactic Coalition Summit. We have prepared quarters for you in the diplomatic section, Drox said. Your technical staff arrived yesterday to set up your communication equipment. As the group moved from the docking bay, Hanbin noticed a small gathering of human station workers standing at attention nearby. Standard protocol, he knew, for greeting an ambassador from their home world. But one spot in the line seemed empty, as if someone was missing. Hanbin's assistant, Jun-Ho, whispered to him, "The summit opening ceremony begins in 3 hours. You should rest before then." "No time for rest," Hanbin replied quietly. "I want a tour of the station first. Not the official one. I want to see how people really live here." Jun-Ho frowned but nodded. He had worked with Hanbin long enough to know arguing would be pointless. After being shown to his quarters, luxurious by station standards with a large viewport and private dining area, Hanbin changed into simpler clothes. The diplomatic uniform was for official functions. For now, he wanted to blend in. "Ambassador, this is highly irregular," Jun-Ho protested when Hanbin emerged wearing standard Earth civilian clothes. "That's why Earth sent me," Hanbin reminded him with a smile. "I'm not like the other diplomats. Now let's go see the real Nexus station." They slipped away from the diplomatic section and into the main thoroughfare. The variety of alien life forms amazed Hanbin. Species with wings soared overhead, while others with multiple legs scuttled along the floor. The air smelled of strange foods and unknown plants. As they passed a busy market area, Hanbin noticed something odd. A human woman in a maintenance uniform was working on a wall panel. Nothing unusual about that, but the way aliens moved to avoid her caught his attention. They gave her a wide berth, some making gestures that Hanbin recognized as warding off bad luck. "Who is that?" he asked Jun-Ho, nodding toward the woman. Jun-Ho followed his gaze and frowned. "Station maintenance staff. We should move on to the observation deck. The view of the nearby nebula is spectacular." But Hanbin was already walking toward the woman. As he approached, she turned slightly, revealing a name tag. J. Park. "Hello?" Hanbin said warmly. "I'm Hanbin Kim, New Earth representative." The woman jumped slightly, clearly surprised to be addressed directly. She looked up, and Hanbin saw her face clearly. Tired eyes, worried expression but striking features. When their eyes met, her expression changed to confusion. "Ambassador," she said quickly, bowing her head. "I apologize. I was told to stay out of sight during the summit." "Out of sight? Why?" Hanbin asked, genuinely puzzled. Before she could answer, a six-limbed alien appeared beside them. "Ambassador Kim," the alien said, mandibles clicking. "I am field maintenance supervisor. Is Engineer Park causing problems?" "Not at all," Hanbin said. "I was just introducing myself to a fellow human." Vilt's compound eyes shifted between them. "Engineer Park has duties in the lower levels. She was just leaving." The woman, Park, nodded quickly and gathered her tools. "Yes, sir, right away." She turned to Hanbin. "Welcome to Nexus Station, Ambassador." Then she hurried away. Hanbin watched her go, noticing how she kept her eyes down and moved quickly, like someone used to avoiding attention. "What's her story?" he asked Vilt. "Jisoo Park is a competent engineer," Vilt replied carefully. "But she has differences that make some station residents uncomfortable." Hanbin raised an eyebrow. "Differences?" "A human brain condition, she sees things others do not. Many species find this disturbing." Jun-Ho stepped forward. "Ambassador, we should continue. The ceremony will begin soon." Hanbin nodded but made a mental note to learn more about Jisoo Park. Something about the situation didn't feel right. The summit opening ceremony was exactly as Hanbin expected: formal speeches, elaborate introductions, and careful diplomacy. Representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations gathered in Meeting Hall Alpha. Hanbin sat with the Earth delegation, listening as Administrator Drox welcomed everyone. "This historic gathering will strengthen the bonds between our peoples," Drox proclaimed. "Trade agreements, scientific exchange, and shared defense protocols are on our agenda." Throughout the ceremony, Hanbin found his thoughts returning to the maintenance worker. When the formal reception began afterward, he approached the human station chief, a middle-aged woman named Director Kang. "Director, I've been reviewing station personnel files," he said, which wasn't exactly true but seemed the best approach. "I'm curious about one of your maintenance engineers, Jisoo Park." Director Kang's pleasant expression faltered slightly. "Engineer Park is a special case, Ambassador." "Special how?" "She has a rare neurological condition. Synesthesia, but an unusual variant. She perceives quantum fluctuations visually." Hanbin's interest sharpened. His background in quantum physics before entering diplomacy made this particularly intriguing. "She can actually see quantum states?" "So she claims," Director Kang said, with obvious skepticism. "Earth doctors confirmed the synesthesia but couldn't explain the quantum perception aspect. Unfortunately, many alien species are superstitious about such things. They believe she brings bad fortune." "And how does Nexus Station handle this situation?" Director Kang sighed. "We keep her in maintenance because she can work in spaces other species cannot access. Administrator Drox prefers she remain inconspicuous." Hanbin nodded slowly. "I see. Thank you for the information, Director." That evening, after the reception ended, Hanbin returned to his quarters and accessed the station's public personnel directory. Jisoo Park's file was minimal. Basic qualifications, work history on Nexus, medical notation of neurological variant, Earth classified. Hanbin sat back in his chair, thinking. As a diplomat, he was here to represent Earth's interests, but, as a scientist at heart, he was intensely curious about Jisoo's condition. If she truly could perceive quantum states, that was extraordinary. He made a decision. Tomorrow, after his scheduled meetings, he would find Jisoo Park again. Against all diplomatic protocol and common sense, Hanbin wanted to know more about the human woman the aliens avoided. What he didn't realize was that this simple decision would soon draw him into a conspiracy that threatened the entire summit, and that Jisoo Park's unusual perception would prove to be far more than just a curious medical condition. Jisoo Park crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel, her headlamp casting shadows on the metal walls. The quantum patterns had been stronger today, forming complex webs around certain areas of the station. She had learned to live with these visions since childhood, but lately they seemed more intense, more structured. Her comm unit beeped. "Park, report to Section 12, Level 3, came Velt's voice. "The atmospheric regulator is malfunctioning in the Vespid quarters." "On my way," Jisoo replied, turning around in the tight space. The Vespid delegation was one of the most important at the summit. They were an ancient species with advanced technology and significant influence in the Galactic Coalition. As she gathered her tools, Jisoo tried to ignore the memory of yesterday's encounter with Ambassador Kim. No diplomat had ever spoken directly to her before. Usually they looked through her as if she didn't exist, or worse, moved away as if she carried disease. When Jisoo arrived at the Vespid quarters, she was met by a security officer, a large, four-armed Luth named Tasso. "Engineer Park," Tasso greeted her with surprising politeness. "The problem is inside. The Vespids are at the summit sessions so you can work undisturbed." Jisoo nodded gratefully. Working without aliens watching her was always easier. She entered the Vespid quarters and found the atmospheric control panel. The air here was adjusted to contain more nitrogen and less oxygen than humans preferred, but her maintenance suit compensated for this. As she removed the panel cover, the quantum patterns in her vision flared brightly. Jisoo paused, studying them. The patterns formed tight, organized spirals around a specific area of the room, not near the atmospheric regulator, but close to a decorative wall hanging. Curious, Jisoo fixed the regulator first, then cautiously approached the wall hanging. It was a beautiful tapestry showing the Vespid homeworld. The pattern swirled most intensely behind it. "What are you doing?" The voice startled Jisoo. She spun around to find Ambassador Hanbin Kim standing in the doorway. "Ambassador, I was just..." Jisoo stepped away from the wall. "The regulator is fixed. I was checking for other issues." Hanbin stepped into the room. He wore casual clothes rather than his diplomatic uniform. Actually, I came looking for you. Security told me you were working here. Jisoo tensed. Did I do something wrong? Not at all. Hanbin smiled warmly. I wanted to talk more about your condition. Director Kang mentioned you can see quantum fluctuations. Jisoo's shoulders dropped slightly. Of course, her condition. Everyone was either afraid of it or wanted to study it like she was some laboratory specimen. I should go, she said, gathering her tools. Maintenance has more jobs for me. Wait, Hanbin said, stepping closer. I studied quantum physics before becoming a diplomat. If you really can perceive quantum states visually, that's incredible. Jisoo hesitated. No one had ever called her condition incredible before. Usually they used words like disturbing or unfortunate. What do you see right now? Hanbin asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. Jisoo looked around the room. Patterns, like glowing nets made of light. Different colors mean different things, I think. They form around certain objects, certain people. She pointed to the wall, hanging. They're very strong there, behind that tapestry. Hanbin approached the wall, hanging carefully. May I? He asked, then gently moved it aside. Behind it was a smooth wall section that looked no different from any other part of the room. There's nothing here, he said, but the patterns. Jisoo stepped forward, forgetting her usual caution. They're swirling right here, blues and purples tightly woven. Hanbin studied the wall thoughtfully. In quantum physics, patterns like what you describe could indicate entanglement fields, but those shouldn't be visible to the human eye. He turned to face her. Unless your brain processes quantum information differently. I've always seen them, Jisoo admitted. Since I was a child. Doctors on Earth said it was just synesthesia, my brain mixing up sensory inputs. Maybe it started as synesthesia, Hanbin said. But what if it evolved into something more? A genuine perception of quantum reality. Before Jisoo could respond, her comm unit beeped again. Park, came Veilt's voice, sounding agitated. Return to maintenance immediately. There's an emergency meeting. I have to go, Jisoo said. Hanbin nodded. Can we talk more later? Maybe after your shift? Jisoo hesitated, then nodded slowly. No one had ever wanted to talk to her outside of work before. The observation deck on level 5 is usually empty at night shift. I'll be there, Hanbin promised. When Jisoo arrived at maintenance, she found the department in chaos. Veilt was issuing rapid orders to the staff. What's happening? She asked another human engineer. Several delegates reported items missing from their quarters, he replied. Valuable artifacts, data devices with sensitive information. Security is going crazy because the door logs show no unauthorized entry. Veilt spotted Jisoo and approached quickly. Park, you're needed for a special assignment. Security Chief Tasso wants you to check the maintenance access points near the compromised quarters. Jisoo spent the next several hours crawling through access tunnels, checking for signs of tampering. She found nothing unusual, except that the quantum patterns were particularly active around certain quarters, especially the Vespid delegation's rooms. That evening, Jisoo waited nervously on the observation deck. The huge viewport showed the stunning vista of stars and the nearby nebula, its gases glowing in blues and greens. Few people came here during night shift, making it one of the few places Jisoo felt comfortable. Hanbin arrived precisely on time. He had changed into Earth, civilian clothes, simple pants and a shirt with the Earth logo small on the sleeve. Beautiful view, he said, joining her at the viewport. It's peaceful here, Jisoo replied. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Hanbin spoke. I heard about the thefts. Security seems baffled. Jisoo nodded. The quantum patterns have been different lately, stronger, more organized, especially around the Vespid quarters. Hanbin looked at her with sudden interest. When did this change begin? About a week ago, when delegations started arriving for the summit. And you see these patterns most strongly around specific areas. Specific people? Jisoo thought for a moment. Yes, there's a Vespid aid, thin with lighter markings than the others. The patterns around him are very strange, tight spirals, pulsing with energy. Hanbin's expression grew serious. Jisoo, what if what you're seeing isn't just random quantum noise? What if it's technology? Technology? Like what? Theoretical quantum teleportation, Hanbin said, his voice dropping lower. It's been theorized but never successfully demonstrated on a practical scale, at least not officially. Jisoo's eyes widened. You think someone is using quantum teleportation to steal things? It would explain how items disappeared from sealed rooms with no record of entry. Hanbin paced slowly. The physics would work. Quantum entangled pairs could create a transfer pathway between 2 points in space. And I can see it because of my condition, Jisoo said, understanding dawning. Exactly. Your brain processes quantum information visually. Hanbin turned to her, excitement in his eyes. Jisoo, this could be huge. Not just solving the thefts, but understanding your ability. You're not seeing things that aren't there. You're seeing things no one else can. For the first time in years, Jisoo felt a spark of hope. What if her condition wasn't a defect but a gift? What if the thing that had made her an outcast could actually help people? What should we do, she asked. We need to gather evidence, Hanbin said. Can you track these patterns, follow them to their source? Jisoo nodded slowly. I think so. They're like trails of light. I can follow where they're strongest. Then tomorrow we begin investigating, Hanbin said with determination. But we need to be careful. If someone really does have this technology, they won't want it discovered. Jisoo should have been scared. This was dangerous, far outside her. Normal life-fixing machinery in quiet tunnels. But instead she felt strangely alive. For the first time, someone believed her. Someone saw value in the very thing that had made her an outcast. I'll help, she said firmly. Tomorrow after my shift. What neither of them realized was that their conversation had not gone unnoticed. In the shadows near the observation deck entrance, a figure had been listening. As Hanbin and Jisoo made their plans, the figure slipped away silently, moving toward the Vespid delegation's quarters. The game had changed, and the stakes were about to get much higher. Morning arrived on Nexus Station with the artificial lighting gradually increasing to simulate dawn. Jisoo woke early, her mind filled with thoughts of quantum patterns and secret technologies. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of purpose beyond just fixing broken machinery. Her comm unit buzzed. It was not Velt's usual work assignment, but a message from Hanbin. Security office, important news, come quickly. Jisoo hurried through the station corridors. The security office was in the administrative sector, an area she rarely visited. When she arrived, Hanbin was waiting outside, looking troubled. What happened? She asked. More thefts last night, Hanbin said quietly. A Luth delegation's data core and a Merit ambassador's ceremonial staff. Both items were in locked rooms with no signs of entry. Did you tell security about our theory? Hanbin nodded. I spoke with Chief Tasso this morning. Showed him some basic quantum physics principles that could explain it. He frowned. He dismissed it as impossible. Said I should stick to diplomacy and leave security matters to professionals. Jisoo wasn't surprised. Even among humans, few people took her seriously. Why would an alien security chief believe in quantum teleportation based on what a human with a brain condition claimed to see? So what do we do now? She asked. We need proof, Hanbin said firmly. Can you track the patterns to their source? Find where the stolen items might have been taken? Jisoo considered this. The patterns are strongest around the Vespid quarters, especially near that aid you mentioned. If we follow them, then we might find where the stolen items are being kept. Hanbin checked his comm unit. I have diplomatic meetings all morning, but I'm free after midday. Can you get away from your duties then? Velt has me scheduled in the lower maintenance tunnels. No one checks on me there. I can meet you. They agreed to meet at a quiet junction near the Vespid quarters. Jisoo went to her assigned maintenance work, but her mind was elsewhere. The quantum patterns seemed even more vibrant today, pulsing with energy and purpose. When midday came, Jisoo made her way to the meeting point. Hanbin was already waiting, wearing casual clothes rather than his diplomatic uniform to attract less attention. "Ready?" he asked. Jisoo nodded, suddenly nervous. "The patterns lead this way." She guided Hanbin through service corridors and maintenance tunnels, following the swirling quantum trails only she could see. They grew brighter and more intense as they moved deeper into the station's secondary systems level. "It's strongest here," Jisoo said finally, stopping before an unmarked door in a quiet corridor. The quantum patterns swirled around it like a glowing storm. Hanbin examined the door. "This isn't on the station maps. It's listed as a storage compartment, but the security coding is much higher than standard storage. The patterns flow in and out constantly," Jisoo said, studying the dancing lights only she could see. "Whatever is happening with the quantum teleportation, this is definitely connected." Hanbin pulled out a small device from his pocket. "Diplomatic. Override code. It won't work on the highest security doors, but it might work on this one." He placed the device against the door panel. After a tense moment, the lock clicked and the door slid open slightly. "We should call security now," Jisoo whispered, suddenly afraid. Hanbin hesitated. "Tasso already dismissed our theory once. We need to see what's inside first." They pushed the door open and stepped into darkness. Lights activated automatically, revealing a small room filled with technical equipment. And there, arranged carefully on a center table, were several objects Jisoo recognized from security alerts. The missing artifacts and data devices. "We were right," Hanbin breathed, examining the setup. "This is a quantum teleportation receiver. Incredible technology, far beyond what's supposed to exist in the Coalition." Jisoo stared at the objects. The quantum patterns around them were beautiful, complex spirals of light and energy. The patterns connect these objects to somewhere else on the station. "The Vespid quarters, I think." "We need to document this," Hanbin said, taking out his comm unit to record the scene. Before he could begin, the door slid shut behind them with a loud click. They spun around to find themselves locked in. "I didn't touch anything," Jisoo said, panic rising in her voice. Hanbin tried his override device on the interior panel, but it did nothing. "We've been trapped." The comm units in their pockets beeped simultaneously. A message appeared on both screens. "Remain where you are. Security is en route." Jisoo felt her heart pounding. "Is that good or bad?" "Depends on who sent it," Hanbin said grimly. They didn't have to wait long to find out. The door slid open minutes later, revealing not just Security Chief Tasso, but also Station Administrator Drox. Behind them stood several security officers and the thin Vespid aide Jisoo had noticed earlier. "Ambassador Kim," Drox rumbled, his massive frame filling the doorway. "You are interfering with a security operation. This is most unfortunate." Hanbin stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Jisoo. "Administrator, we've discovered evidence of theft using quantum teleportation technology. These are the missing items from the delegate quarters." Tasso's 4 arms crossed in front of his chest. "Yes, items we were in the process of recovering as part of an ongoing investigation. An investigation you have now compromised." The Vespid aide moved forward, his insect-like features unreadable. "These humans have seen too much," he said, his translator making his clicking speech understandable. "The technology must remain secret." Jisoo studied the quantum patterns around the Vespid. They were unusual, different from the patterns around the stolen objects. Something wasn't right. "Administrator," Hanbin said carefully, "I believe there's more happening here than a simple security operation. This technology exceeds known Coalition capabilities. Why is it being hidden?" Drox's eyes narrowed. "Ambassador, some matters are beyond diplomatic concerns. This technology was being tested for security purposes." "If that's true," Hanbin pressed, "why not inform the Coalition delegates? Why the secrecy?" A tense silence filled the room. Jisoo watched the quantum patterns shift and change around them. The patterns around Drox and the Vespid aide were connecting, forming a strange new configuration. "They're lying," she said suddenly, unable to help herself. The patterns show it, they're working together. All eyes turned to her. The Vespid aide stepped forward, studying her with compound eyes. The human female with the defect. You truly see the quantum fields? Jisoo nodded slowly. I always have. And I can see that you're using them differently than the technology in this room. The Vespid turned to Drox. This changes everything. A biological quantum sensor would be even more valuable than the teleportation technology. Drox nodded slightly. Take them both. The human female for study, the diplomat for leverage. The Earth government will not interfere if one of their own is involved. Hanbin moved fully in front of Jisoo now. Administrator Drox, this is a direct violation of diplomatic protocol and human rights. The Earth government will not stand for this. The Earth government will never know, Drox said coldly. Security logs will show you left the station on Mior, an urgent diplomatic mission, and maintenance workers disappear all the time. Jisoo felt cold fear wash over her. All her life she had been an outcast, avoided and feared. Now, the very thing that made her different had made her a target. No, she said, her voice stronger than she expected. I won't let you use me or this technology. In a swift motion, she grabbed one of the stolen data devices from the table and smashed it against the edge. Sparks flew as the delicate technology broke. Stop her, the Vespid aide shouted. Chaos erupted in the small room. Security officers moved forward. Hanbin pushed one back, creating space for Jisoo. She darted toward the quantum teleportation equipment, the patterns in her vision guiding her hands. The primary relay is here, she shouted to Hanbin, pointing to a glowing node only she could see. If we disable it, the evidence remains. Hanbin understood immediately. He grabbed a heavy tool from a nearby shelf and swung it at the spot Jisoo indicated. The machine erupted in sparks and smoke. Alarms blared throughout the station. The lights flickered and emergency systems activated. In the confusion, Jisoo grabbed Hanbin's hand. The maintenance tunnels, she said urgently. I know a way out. As security scrambled to contain the damage, Jisoo pulled Hanbin toward a small access panel hidden in the wall. For once, her knowledge of the station's forgotten spaces might save them both. But even as they escaped into the narrow tunnel, Jisoo knew this was just the beginning. They had discovered a dangerous secret, and powerful people would do anything to keep it hidden. The maintenance tunnels were dark and narrow, barely wide enough for one person. Jisoo led the way confidently, having spent years navigating these forgotten passages. Hanbin followed close behind, trying to keep his breathing steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. Where are we going? He whispered. Communications hub, Jisoo replied. If we can send a message to Earth directly, we can tell them what's happening. Alarms continued to blare throughout the station. Emergency announcements echoed down the ventilation shafts. Security alert in all sectors. Report suspicious activity. Immediately. They crawled through tight spaces, climbed maintenance ladders, and squeezed past humming equipment. Jisoo could see the quantum patterns guiding her, showing which paths were clear and which might have station personnel nearby. We're close, she said finally, stopping at a junction. The main communications room is through that hatch, but it will be guarded. Hanbin checked his diplomatic communicator. They've already locked me out of the system. Drox is moving quickly. To cover this up, Jisoo thought for a moment, studying the quantum patterns flowing around them. There's another way. The backup communications array. It's rarely used and minimally monitored. They changed direction, moving deeper into the maintenance areas. When they reached the backup array, Jisoo quickly began working with the control panel. I need to bypass the security lockouts, she explained. Maintenance codes have limited access, but I might be able to open a channel. Hanbin watched the tunnel entrance anxiously. We don't have much time. Drox and that Vespid aide will have security searching everywhere. Almost there, Jisoo said, fingers flying over the controls. The quantum patterns around the communication equipment guided her actions, showing her connections and pathways invisible to normal sight. Finally, a light blinked green on the panel. Got it. Quick. Record your message. Make it short but clear. Hanbin leaned toward the communication pickup. This is Ambassador Hanbin Kim on Nexus Station. Emergency situation. Station Administrator Drox is involved in theft of diplomatic property using illegal quantum teleportation technology. Request immediate Coalition Security Council intervention. Engineer Jisoo Park can provide evidence of quantum field manipulation. We are in hiding and may be captured. Authentication code Kim Delta 79. Jisoo sent the message on a secure frequency directly to Earth Diplomatic Headquarters. Message away, she confirmed. Now we need to keep moving. They'll trace that transmission quickly. They had barely entered the next tunnel when they heard voices and footsteps in the passage behind them. Security teams, Hanbin whispered. They're searching the maintenance areas. Jisoo led them through a dizzying series of turns and hatches, trying to stay ahead of their pursuers. But the security teams were closing in, coordinating their movements through comms. We can't outrun them forever, Jisoo admitted as they paused to catch their breath in a small equipment room. The station is sealed. There's nowhere to go. Hanbin considered their options. We don't need to escape completely. We just need to stay free until help arrives from Earth or the Coalition Security Council. That could take hours, Jisoo pointed out. Then we need to go public, Hanbin decided. If we can reach the main summit meeting, with all the Coalition delegates present, we can expose Drox and the Vespid plot. They can't silence all of us in front of the entire Galactic Coalition. Jisoo nodded slowly. The summit reconvenes in the main chamber in 30 minutes. We can use the service passages to get close, but the final approach will be heavily guarded. Then we'll need a distraction, Hanbin said. Using Jisoo's maintenance access codes, they triggered minor system failures in several station sectors, drawing security teams away from their path. The quantum patterns helped Jisoo identify which systems could be safely disrupted without endangering the station. They made their way toward the grand meeting hall where the summit was gathering. As they approached, Jisoo suddenly grabbed Hanbin's arm. The patterns, she whispered urgently. They're changing. Something's happening in the meeting hall. Hanbin peered through a small observation port. The Coalition delegates were taking their seats in the circular chamber. Administrator Drox stood at the central podium, looking outwardly calm despite the situation unfolding throughout his station. Honored delegates, Drox was saying. I must inform you of a security situation. Our systems detected unauthorized access to sensitive areas. The culprits have been identified as a human maintenance worker with a history of mental instability and, regrettably, Earth's Ambassador Kim, who appears to have been manipulated by her. Jisoo felt her heart sink. Drox was already spinning the story, painting them as the criminals. We must move now, Hanbin said, determination in his voice. Before he turns everyone against us. They found a service entrance that led directly into the back of the meeting chamber. 2 security guards stood watch, but they were focused on the proceedings inside. I'll create a distraction, Hanbin said. When they move, run for the center of the room and tell everyone what you saw. The quantum patterns, the teleportation, everything. What about you? Jisoo asked. Hanbin smiled. I'll be right behind you. Before she could protest, Hanbin stepped out and approached the guards openly. Officers, I need your assistance. I believe I saw suspicious activity in the corridor junction. As the guards turned toward him, Jisoo slipped past and entered the chamber. Heart pounding, she ran toward the center of the room. Delegates from dozens of species turned to stare at the human woman in a dirty maintenance uniform, rushing into their prestigious meeting. Stop her! Drox bellowed from the podium. The administrator is a thief, Jisoo shouted, her voice echoing in the large space. He and the Vespid aide are using illegal quantum teleportation technology to steal from the delegates. Murmurs erupted throughout the chamber. The Vespid delegation rose to their feet, mandibles clicking in agitation. This human is mentally unwell, Drox said smoothly. Security, remove her. As guards moved toward Jisoo, Hanbin burst into the room, his diplomatic insignia clearly visible. She speaks the truth. We found the stolen items in a hidden room. I sent evidence to Earth Command and the Coalition Security Council. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates demanded explanations. Security forces hesitated, unsure who to obey. The thin Vespid aide suddenly pushed his way toward an exit. Jisoo saw the quantum patterns around him intensify. "He's activating something," she shouted, pointing. "The quantum field is building." Acting on instinct and guided by the patterns only she could see, Jisoo ran toward the Vespid and tackled him. They fell to the ground, and a small device tumbled from his grasp. The quantum patterns around it were blindingly bright to Jisoo's special vision. As security surrounded them, the device began to glow and hum. The patterns showed Jisoo exactly what was happening. A quantum field was forming, attempting to teleport the device and anything nearby away from the chamber. "It's going to teleport," she warned. "Everyone back." Acting purely on the guidance of the quantum patterns, Jisoo grabbed the device and twisted it in a specific way. The humming stopped abruptly. The teleportation field collapsed, and the device went dark in her hands. Silence fell over the chamber. Then, a tall Merid delegate stepped forward and examined the device. "This is quantum manipulation technology," the Merid announced. "Highly restricted under coalition treaties." He turned to Jisoo. "How did you know how to deactivate it?" Jisoo looked at the now fading patterns around the device. "I could see the quantum fields. I just followed what they showed me." Merid's eyes widened. "You can perceive quantum states without equipment?" Before Jisoo could respond, more security officers entered the chamber. But these wore the insignia of the Coalition Security Council, not station security. "Administrator, Drox, you are detained pending investigation," their leader announced. "We received Ambassador Kim's emergency transmission and have found evidence confirming his claims." In the days that followed, Jisoo found her life transformed. The Coalition Science Directorate requested her assistance in understanding and documenting her unique perception abilities. For the first time, her difference was valued, not feared. The investigation revealed that the Vespid aide belonged to a radical faction seeking technological advantages over other coalition members. Drox had been bribed to provide station access and cover for their theft operation. 1 week after the confrontation, Jisoo stood in a new uniform, not maintenance gray, but the blue and silver of the Coalition Science Corps. Hanbin stood beside her as they gazed out at the stars from the observation deck. "The Science Directorate wants to find others like me," Jisoo said. "Apparently there are more humans with similar synesthetic conditions who might perceive quantum states." "You've changed everything," Hanbin said, smiling. "Not just for yourself, but for others like you, and for humanity's standing in the coalition." Jisoo watched the quantum patterns dancing among the stars. Beautiful, complex, and now understood rather than feared. "One human changed everything," she said softly. Finally, feeling like she belonged,